Yes, all. Where's she going again? Barcelona. Thank you.
I didn't say a word. That little voice that said now recording and it silenced all of us. Wow. Yeah. Hey, welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. This is the Wasatch Front Regional Council meeting. Today is Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. And the time is 1:38 p.m. We're going to do introductions very quickly. We'll go around the table and then we'll go online. After we do the table in the gallery, then we'll jump online. And my name is Dawn Ramsey. I'm the mayor of South Jordan City and serve as chair of the Wasatch Front Regional Council right now. We'll go ahead and start over there.
I'm Rosie Hernandez, and I'm part of the admin team at WFRC.
Jordan Chandler, also on the admin team at WFRC.
Good afternoon, Christy Overson, Mayor of Taylorsville.
Dustin Gettle, Mayor of Bidwell City.
Carlton Christensen, trustee for the Utah Transit Authority.
Joy Petro, Layton City Mayor.
Scott Wardle, Tooele County Council.
Andrea Pearson, part of the WFRC admin team.
I'm Andrew Gruber. Welcome to WFRC. I'm the executive director here.
Jeff Silvestrini, Mayor of Mill Creek.
Carlos Braceras, UDOT.
Mark Shepard, Mayor Clearfield City.
Monica Zoltansky, Sandy City Mayor.
Laura Hanson, Governor's Office.
Ted Knowlton, Deputy Director, WFRC.
Wayne Harper, Utah State Senate.
Meg Pageant, Community and Economic Development Director, WFRC.
Tim Watkins, WFRC.
John A. Nardone, Communications Manager, WFRC.
Miranda Jones-Cox, Government Affairs, WFRC.
Val Potter, representing Senator Curtis.
Mike Barker, the Draper City Manager.
Kelly Chalberg, Assistant City Manager, Draper City.
Ben Hewitt, UDOT.
Byron Head, WFRC Community and Economic Development Group.
Marsha White, WFRC Community and Economic Development Center Group.
Ayla Hajialigic, Fellow at the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget.
Chloe Hall, a fellow at the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget.
Bert Granberg, WFRC Analytics.
Ben Withrich, Wasatch Front Staff, Short Range Planning.
Hugh Van Wagenen, Biking Walking, WFRC.
Matt Ryan, Community Planner, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Christy Dahlberg in the Community Economic Development Group at Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Jory Johnner, Long Range Plan Group, WFRC.
Taylor Jensen, West Jordan City. Rob Jolly, WFRC Lobbyist.
Cameron Dale, Utah League of Cities and Towns.
Madison Aviles, Local Administrative Advisor at Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Marion Florence, Finance at WFRC.
Thank you. And Representative DeFay, do you want to introduce yourself?
Ariel DeFay from the House of Representatives, Davis County.
Thank you. Let's jump to online. I'm just going to go in order of where I can see you on this screen. Let's have you introduce yourselves. We'll start with Mayor Dandoy and then go to Jim and then Mayor Nadolski.
Thank you, Mayor. Bob Dandoy, Roy City. Thank you.
Commissioner Jim Harvey, Weber County.
Ogden City Mayor Ben Nadolski.
Thank you. Let's go to our vice chair and then we'll go to Commissioner Bolos and then Mayor Wilson. Bob, this is you, if you're able to. Yeah.
Bob Stevenson, Davis County.
Commissioner Sharon Bolos, Weber County.
Jenny Wilson, Salt Lake County Mayor.
Thank you. Let's go to Commissioner Froer and then Commissioner Newton and then Mayor Palmer.
Commissioner Gage Froer, Weber County.
Commissioner Newton? Okay, well, It just hopped. Yep. We'll introduce Commissioner Newton from Morgan County, and now Mayor Palmer. Go ahead.
Mayor Palmer out here in Harriman.
Great. Thank you. All right. We'll go to Mayor Stanger and then Mayor Walker and Mayor Bingham.
Mayor Stanger, sorry I can't be there. We've got sixth grade graduation and a pool party going on, but thank you guys.
You're killing me, man. Yeah, it's awesome. Congratulations.
How come we weren't invited?
No, I'm like, that is brutal to show us that right now. That's awesome. Right. Have fun. Okay. Mayor Walker, would you like to introduce yourself? Are you in a place where you're able to? You might be in listen mode only. All right. We'll introduce Mayor Troy Walker of Draper and then Mayor Bingham. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Hi, there you are. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, Mayor Bingham. I'm Sherry Bingham, Mayor of Heber City.
Great. Thank you.
I should just say, Mayor, that Mayor Walker is joining us from the Capitol in DC. He's there for the National League of Cities, so he may be doing double duty, wandering around the Hill and listening in on the meeting at the same time.
Yes, we appreciate him listening in and understand if he's in listen mode only. Thank you. So as you can tell by looking around the room, we have a lot of folks that are joining us online and quite a few that are at different conferences and events with the National League of Cities, Association of Counties, the Transportation Association. We've got a lot of folks that are gone right now. Thank you to those of you who are able to join us online and those who will be popping in and out. We appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's here. All right, item 1, we have our consent agenda. We have the minutes from the meeting that was held March 27th, 2025, and financial statements and check registers for February and March of 2025, and the current finance report. Those have been sent for consideration. If there aren't any amendments, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Jeff Silverstein, I move to approve those items.
Second.
Okay, the second went to Mayor Gettle. Okay, great. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion to this? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Those are approved. Item 2 is our chair report, and this time I think we're going to forego a chair report. We don't have any hot button legislative items that we're working on at the moment, right? So, yeah, right. The senator's like, speak for yourself, right? But okay, good. So for the sake of time, you are very welcome that I am going to forego giving a chair's report, and we're just going to jump right into the substantive items of this meeting because we can this time. Sometimes we have some things we really have to go over, and this time we can move on. So item 3, we have public comment. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak? If so, we're going to invite you to come up to this microphone and ask you to give us your name, tell us where you're from, and we'll give everyone 2 minutes to address the council. If you're here in person and would like to speak, the time is now yours. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. Is there anyone online that would like to speak during this public comment? If so, you're going to need to give us a wave, and you'll have to turn your camera on too.
Yeah, for those of you who are attendees, if you'd raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment, I can give you rights to speak.
And Mayor, I should note there are multiple members of the public who are joining us online. They're not showing up on the screen right here, but they are able to make a public comment if they would like to.
And we welcome all of you. Thank you for being here.
So, seeing none.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none, we will move on to item 4, our Regional Growth Committee report. We have Mayor Dandoy with us electronically right there. Bob, that looks like a nice background for you too. It might be a wishful thinking background at the moment, but it looks great.
Madam Chair, I will just indicate to you, we here in Roy have some great weather. And we're just taking some public money and actually carving a road to the ocean, particularly since we enjoy having our county commissioners and Ogden mayor join us. So what you see is what you get in Roy.
That's good stuff. That's awesome.
Madam Chair, we're excited and thank you for allowing me to make some comments. We had a great Regional Growth Committee meeting last week, which included approval of Amendment 3 to the 2023 to 2025 Regional Transportation Plan. We'll go through that here in a segment. Amendment 3 included a total of 11 project modifications. 5 of these projects were reviewed and approved by the Regional Growth Committee, which is tasked with reviewing certain types or levels of projects. 6 were reviewed and approved by staff in consultation with myself and Vice Chair Kamola. Now, details on all these project modifications, Madam Chair, were actually included in our packet, so we can certainly see those. Today, we do have 2 items we'd like to discuss with the council. A discussion about the mid-cycle land use update to the Wasatch Choice Vision, and an action item to certify stationary plans for Draper City, Taylorsville City, and West Jordan City. And we are certainly excited about these stationary plan approval options. Now, I'd like to move, if I can, Madam Chair, to item number 4A on the agenda. This talks about the Wasatch Choice Vision and our shared framework for transportation, land use, and economic development. At our Regional Growth Committee meeting, we discussed a major update to the land use in the vision, reflecting the framework of each community as how they want to address growth. Now, the vision of the future land use is important for housing, and it's also because it's directly affecting decisions to do with our transportation projects, particularly in the Regional Transportation Plan and the Utah Unified Transportation Plan. Madam Chair, I'd like to turn some time now over to Ted Knowlton and Tim Watkins to share some of this information we discussed in our committee meeting. Ted?
Mayor Dandoy, thanks so much. And everybody, it's great to be with you. I'll be brief. Mayor Dandoy talked about some amendments to the Regional Transportation Plan. And part of the reason why we do amendments is because things are always changing. And I think you may know, but as a reminder, it takes 4 years to update the Regional Transportation Plan. But we don't want to wait 4 years if conditions have changed. Well, the same thing is with our land use. So a lot of us were in workshops just this last fall where we explored with communities and communities with each other 2 things. What kinds of land use ideas did they think make sense looking out to the next couple of decades? And also, what transportation ideas did they think would help improve quality of life in their area? And the best time to update a plan is when those input ideas are fresh. So we took all of that input from the workshops, and then we circled back with each community and we listened. And we're excited to update this land use for a couple of reasons. 1, because it keeps the plan fresh, and 2, because it feeds into and shapes the Regional Transportation Plan. It's such an important part of helping us decide what projects and where makes sense for us to preserve our quality of life as we look ahead. We continue to work, by the way, with Morgan and Tooele counties on their component of the vision. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim. He's going to do a little bit of a show and tell about what you all have said is your land use vision in the Wasatch Choice Vision. Tim?
Well, thank you, Ted, and good afternoon, Council. It's great to be with you. And I look forward to sharing just a brief summary of some of the highlights of the process to update the Wasatch Choice Vision land use map and then tie it back to how it moves forward and the sequence of working towards updating the Regional Transportation Plan. So what you're looking at here are 4 of the key categories: regionally significant land uses, or the centers, ranging from neighborhood centers, the lowest intensity, city center, urban center, metro is the most intensive. And we focus on centers, not exclusively, but primarily in the Wasatch Choice Vision because they provide a multiplicity of benefits, but there are other important land uses. And those include, other important regionally significant land uses. Those include employment districts, industrial districts, residential areas, and so forth. But centers are focused on, because they provide access to so many different opportunities. They create more transportation choices, whether it be drive, transit, walk, or bike. And they help to absorb growth and focus growth in areas that helps reduce pressure on other areas or sensitive areas that we want to preserve. So here's a perspective of the Wasatch Choice Vision Land Use Mapping app that has been created for the communities to review as we've been collecting feedback over the past several months, beginning with the fall workshops and then over the winter and spring months, we've been able to update the vision. As you see, the left side of the slider being the current 2023 plan, the right side being the updates. And I've highlighted just a few areas on the map where you see some changes. For example, here in Employment Center, you see an update to Urban Center. Here's a new Neighborhood Center, for example, and in this case, a change from Neighborhood Center to an expanded City Center and other changes. In some cases, new centers, in other cases, a change of type or intensity. But the common theme is that centers remain to a very desired future land use in communities. And here's just a snapshot, a summary, if you will, of the change from 2023 that you see kind of in these column groupings, the left side of each column being the current 2023 use, and then the update 2025 is the right side of that column. And here's just the centers. You note that there are an increase of, that's 58% increase in centers, an additional 117 new centers, up from 199 to 316. And note the uptick in neighborhood centers in particular. It kind of suggests that residents would like to maybe walk somewhere and grab a sandwich with some friends or an ice cream and gather and enjoy a Saturday afternoon.
You do wonder whether that's a measure of, can I walk to get an ice cream? And one little minor clarification here. So these are not what's on the ground now. Even though it says 2023 and 2025, that's when it was updated, but this is communities thinking about what they desire to create. A lot of it is here today, but some of it they're desiring to create.
Yep, and some are just a work in progress. And then we're pleased to have these new visual resources that help depict what it might be like to gather in a neighborhood center. This being a depiction of maybe 1 to 3 stories. You see the mix of uses ranging from residential to retail and office, an emphasis on walking and public space, and parking available, but less emphasized in the design. And here is an image of a city center. This might be up to 4 stories, some more intensity, but similar principles of mixed-use development oriented around spaces to gather, recreate, and enjoy different services and businesses. And then an urban center might be more of a regional draw with events, activities, destinations, and so forth.
Tim and I have a mutual interject upon each other agreement. So,
Yes, we do.
But I wanted to note, you saw all of the different types of centers across the region. You're seeing these different images. And I think part of the story of the Wasatch Choice vision is each community thinking about their context, what works in their area. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Even within any given type of center, there's lots of different ways it could unfold. We've been seeing that happen in the station area planning and the differences between communities. It's really wonderful to see people think about, well, how do we deal with the growth challenge, but do it in ways that make our communities more livable?
Thanks, Ted. And I'm happy to report we're this close to releasing all images from this menu of centers, is what we call it, will be updated to the Wasatch Choice Vision very soon. So stay tuned for that.
I was just going to make quickly a comment. When I was at Salt Lake County, we had a speaker series, and we had a really notable person who talked about town centers, and his staff went and ran a scenario and figured you could at least double the number of town centers in Salt Lake County. And the fact that in the planning that has taken place, that has in fact finally, happened, I think this would have been about 10 years ago, probably, would have been a pretty profound shift in the mindset and in planning, because anyway, to see that transition take place.
Thank you for that. And so in summary, it is exciting to see the great participation that we've received from communities across the region is to see it come together in a regional vision and awareness and support of the different land uses and needed transportation across our region as a vision for the future. And you just see reflection of the input, the feedback from the fall workshops, progressing over the winter with a lot of back and forth, making sure we interpreted the comments correctly. Here we are now with a new land use amendment, and that will, as Ted mentioned, feed into travel demand modeling with a future perspective of housing and jobs. And that will prepare us for fall workshops where we'll look at transportation scenarios. So things are moving well, and we're just really pleased to have so much great feedback from our partner communities, and I'd like to invite any comments or discussion at this time.
Okay, I don't see any questions. Thank you so much for that. Mayor, we'll turn it back to you. Mayor Dandoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can, before I move into the next item, let me just give a reality check, if I can, to the power of what we just heard. These workshops are an incredibly a great opportunity for us to basically find collaboration. And as I look at my friend in Davis County, who's a neighbor, Mayor Stanger in Clinton, as I see his plan and his vision and how it fits, and knowing that we share a border, in fact, share not only a city border, but a county border. And we now look at how we now can shape that same transportation corridor. It's great. It's kind of refreshing to be able to do that. So in essence is we are independent in our ideas and stuff, but we're also working together to make sure that there's harmony in our development. And I can see that harmony, Madam Chair, when I get a chance to look at these kind of products that are coming out of these these workshops. It's a great opportunity to know how my neighbors on the north and how my neighbors on the south are thinking, how their development is moving forward, and how we now can become, in essence, compatible, to bring that kind of harmony in the development as we work these transportation corridors. This is invaluable. So I'm giving you a personal testimony, and my friend, Brandon Stanger from Clinton, I'm telling you, it's kind of great that we share common ideas and common goals as we're now looking into the future of where we want our cities to be. So it's a testimony of the importance, of what's happening and what we're witnessing here.
I'm sure that Mayor Stanger would speak up to echo that, but I think he's in the pool right now.
I'm just looking for that picture. Thank you. Madam Chair, I'd like to move to item 4B if I can, which is the stationary plan certifications. The Regional Growth Committee has made a recommendation to the council to certify stationary plans in the 3 communities I mentioned earlier: Draper, Taylorsville, and West Jordan. Cities around the region have been engaged in stationary planning around transit stations, which are key areas to effectively accommodate this growth opportunities we have. Many of these Wasatch Choice Vision Centers are established around these transit stations. While this is a state requirement for cities and transit stations, there's room for each city to create plans that further their own goals and fit in the context of surrounding their transit station. Now, Wasatch Front Regional Council is given the responsibility then to certify that the stationary plans satisfy all the statutory requirements. Now, we're going to turn the time over to Meg, if she will go ahead and lead us the conversation in terms of these opportunities that are now in front of the council. Meg?
Thank you, Mayor Dandoy. So as was introduced, we're going to talk about stationary planning again. We've been doing this just about every meeting now, so you're getting used to this. We're going to have the opportunity to certify Draper's Town Center plan for their track station, Taylorsville's expressway plans along 3 BRT stations, and West Jordan's 5600 West plan. Before we do that, I'm going to do a little bit of an overview of where we're at right now. So station area planning is required around fixed rail and bus rapid transit stations. That's a half mile around fixed rail, quarter mile around bus rapid transit stations. And there are several requirements for station area planning, as we discuss time to time. The big thing here is that it came out of the housing bill in 2022. And so a big part of this is creating the opportunity for a variety of housing choice around places that are really accessible in our region, which are transit stations. It's a really good place to focus some of the growth we're experiencing. And it's 2025 is the first deadline for some of these station area plans. And as my team and I are acutely aware, it's May of 2025. So we've got a little bit of a report on where we're at and where we're headed through the end of this year and then beyond. There's still requirements. Cities have obligations, remaining stations to plan beyond 2025, but this year's a big push. So here's where we're at. There's 127 station areas when you start to carve them up by city boundary. 38 of those have been certified already. So that's some of those were certified a little early, but many of those were due this year. So we've got a lot of cities that are already certified. Over half of what's required to be done by the end of this year is already done. So we're feeling good. We have 5 in front of you today in 3 different cities, and we have 48 in the pipeline. That's 48 stations that are being planned by cities all over the region, and that includes the Mountain Land Association of Governments area. All of this data includes MAG. So they're working on this too. They have fewer stations, but we'll see a big push in 2025. You can expect to see more of these in the next couple of meetings and beyond. This is some data we've put together on what's been certified so far, what's been planned, and then extrapolating that out a little bit just for fun. There's no target housing metric for these station area plans. So we're doing context appropriate planning for all these stations. But in what we've certified so far, we have about 48,000 planned housing units. That's a lot of housing. And if you're following the conversation we're having at the state level, we need that housing. And I'm just really proud of the cities for finding a place for it in their station area plans. And we'll see how it all comes out of the ground. But that's really exciting to us. We also did a little bit of research on the plan certified so far, and there's an average of 8 new connections. It's an art, not a science, looking at if a sidewalk was connected, a pedestrian connection across a thoroughfare, if there's a new trail that cuts across, if there's a new way to get to the station somehow, biking, walking, car, maybe a new transit circulator, those are all connections. So in each of these plans, there's an average of 8. So that's a lot of new connections and accessibility to our stations as well. And that's really important with the planning. It's not just about growth and development and housing. It's about creating really great neighborhoods, and being able to get around is a really big part of that, of course. We have a station area planning report. We update it after every one of these meetings. We just refreshed it. So now it has new stories, communities highlighted. That's Sandy, Clearfield, and Lehigh are the highlights in the report right now. And that'll be sent out to you following this meeting with all the updates made.
Can I just add a comment there? I just want to add an exclamation mark to what you just said. These station area plans, at this point, 48,000 new housing units. That really is significant. The governor's call is for 35,000 new housing units in 5 years' time, 4 years. Starter homes, right? Well, see, but right there is the difference. Cities can't control and counties can't control what they are that's built. The developers come in with what they want. But 48,000 new housing units, some of those surely will be, well, there's all different types of housing, right? But all of this to chip away at the national challenge of housing prices. We're all facing it. We're all feeling it. This is a big deal. And our cities are working hard. Our counties are working hard. These station area plans, that's a big yield. And I just want to add an exclamation mark to it, because I just don't think that can be said enough, that really, that's notable for our housing stock here in Utah. And when they get built, having them be approved is good. It adds to the stock of what's planned for and what can be built. The numbers are getting high, and when they come in, it'll really make a difference. Please.
I will just say yes, kudos and ditto to all of that. This is great, and it's awesome, and making a huge difference, and will be noticed. So great work, everyone.
Thanks for your comments. I'll say it's kind of funny. We'll send this report around for review, and someone's like, the number changed. Why did that number change? Because it's changing every time you guys vote in these meetings. So this will change really soon. But for now, we're at 48,000 and counting. So keep in mind, the report will refresh a lot, but we'll send you a link to the latest. Okay, let's start with Draper. So Draper's Town Center Plan, this is around their track station on the blue line. This plan, well, let's see, is Mayor Walker online by chance?
So Mayor Walker is texting me and probably texting you guys as well. He is not online. I said he's in DC. He's now boarding the plane, And he just said in Mayor Walker style, I offered to get him on the phone, but he said, no, but please convey the love from the father of station area plans. This is a title that Mayor Walker gave himself because he was very involved in the legislative process several years ago in developing the legislation that led to this requirement and also the funding that we've been providing. So love from the father,
Okay.
duly conveyed.
We also have the city manager and an assistant city manager, both from Draper here, if we have anything for them to share.
Yes.
When they walked in together, I thought, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thanks so much for being here. I'm sure Mayor Walker's fellow passengers thank him for not trying to present this plan right now on the plane. I'll go ahead and run through the stats I've got up here on the screen. The plans are in your packets. If you do have questions, let's talk about them now before we move to a recommendation for a certification. By the way, we're going to do these all in one recommended certification for certification. But if we want to split those out, we of course can. So let me run through some Draper highlights. Pioneer Road is the future main street of this transit-oriented community in Draper. There's a mix of housing units planned on both the UTA properties, there's a park and ride there now, and city properties, over 500 units on just those public properties, with more planning outside of that area. What you're seeing right now is kind of the focus right at the station. Potential redevelopment of the surrounding commercial areas along 123rd South. The 123rd South is just north of the station area, major thoroughfare through Draper, and then an expanded trail system. These plans are in your packets. Does anyone have any questions or discussion items on Draper? And if staff would like to add. Okay, let's keep cruising. Okay, we're gonna head northwest to Taylorsville here. Taylorsville's expressway has 3 stations kind of along its core. All 3 of those are in one plan. Numerous housing types planned in this document. There's 4,400 projected new homes. There's a golf course in the area. There's a mobile home park, right? So some of this stuff will happen organically when it's ready, but 4,400 new homes at the build out of the plan. A linear park is one of the great highlights of this. It's through the Jordan River Trail and a plan for a future housing and transit reinvestment zone. Mayor Overson is with us. Mayor Overson, do you want to say anything about this plan?
I'm happy to make just a few comments, and my comments are comments of thanks. So I was driving in here. I have one of those cars that if you start to stray in the lane, it makes you a little bumpy or a rumbling feeling, reminding me to stay in my lane. And as mayor, I'm reminded a lot to stay in my lane. And in City Hall, we have that discussion a lot. But as I thought of driving here and trying to stay in my lane and thinking about this project, there is no way that Taylorsville could have stayed in their lane. There were so many people, so many entities that helped us. And so I just need to say thank you, Meg. Thank you, Wasatch Front Regional Council, UTA, KGRW, RLC, RCLCO, Great Basin Engineering, and our remarkable Team Taylorsville. We have an incredible team within City Hall, and this would not have been possible. Our plan, the document itself is lengthy, but it's visionary, it's exciting, it's robust, and kind of like Taylorsville. You know, we've been around for a long time. We're a long document ourselves, being the first city west of the Jordan River. But we are also visionary, and we're excited, and this is just such an exciting event. And I feel like I'm not the father of SAPs, but I kind of feel like the mother presenting the plan. I'm presenting this plan to the community, not for your blessing, but for your certification. And so just stand back and watch what's going to happen. And of course, we know it takes many years, but I am so delighted and so proud to be here to say, Yahoo, we're almost there, and we want your certification. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions for Taylorsville? It's been a pleasure to work with the long document that is Taylorsville on this. Okay, We're going to go to West Jordan now. So West Jordan has certified plans with you before. This plan is for the 5600 West Old Bingham Highway Track Station. Mayor Burton is likely not online, but just a double check. Okay, Mayor Burton wanted to be here today, and I promised him that if certified, I would woohoo for him. So, and he said, thank you. This is the current site of Interstate Brick. There's about 3,000 new dwelling units planned at this station area. The Brick Line multimodal corridor extending from track station to Bingham Creek Regional Park is part of this plan. And then it has a focus on reviving the location of the Jordan School District warehousing from the West Jordan City Center Station. Those are some highlights. The plans are in your packets, so flip through. They're gorgeous documents, and the city's worked really hard on these. Any questions? We have West Jordan staff here as well. Are there any questions about the West Jordan plan? Okay. If it's okay, Madam Chair, I can turn it to a recommendation for a motion.
Thank you. Before that, first of all, thank you. Second, we have a council member here from West
Oh,
Jordan.
yes, thank
right here
you.
at the table, Councilman Shelton. Is there anything you'd like to say from West Jordan?
So we're very excited about this station area plan in West Jordan. Of course, it's incumbent on Interstate Brick choosing to sell that property at some point. But my favorite part of this plan is the Main Street. Very walking friendly. I was in the meetings with the public where we took tiles and moved them around on the map and tried to decide where things would work best. And it's just it's a very underutilized location and needs to be revitalized. And this is just an amazing plan. I'm so proud of it. I'm proud of Taylor Jensen at West Jordan City has worked very hard on this, and proud of so many people who have put much more into this plan than myself. It's just been a pleasure and an honor to be a part of developing this plan, and I'm so excited, and I hope to have your support and seeing this move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mayor, may I just building off of the councilman's comment, you mentioned that part of the redevelopment here is dependent on the property owner, Intermountain Brick, selling the property and proceeding. That's an important observation to make, I think, because you, as local communities, you do a lot of hard work. You engage with your councils, you engage with your planning commissions, you engage with your residents in the sometimes tricky decisions about change in your communities. And then, of course, it's also critical to be engaged with the private sector. So local communities, local governments typically aren't the entities that are actually doing the development. It is the private sector that is doing the development. And so there's timing questions depending on when private property owners are interested in having a turnover in their property, market conditions that are at play as well. So what's reflected here is you making, as Mayor Overson was noting, presenting the beautiful baby, if you will, of the vision of what you want to have in your community, but then still so much has to happen going forward with the market and the private sector. But you've set the stage for that to happen. And there are tools for funding and financing that can help that development happen, particularly around transit stations, I'll mention, and with Senator Harper here, the housing and transit reinvestment zones and other financing and funding tools to help these developments happen. But it really does take a broad collaborative approach from a lot of stakeholders to make these things happen. And it's hard work.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Meg, thank you so much for that presentation. So much good work has gone into this. Great station area plans. I was on Regional Growth Committee meeting, and they were very strong support of that. And so, Mayor Dandoy, if you're okay, I'll just call for a motion. Is that all right?
Please do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. All right. I would love love to entertain a motion to approve these stationary plans. And
pick
there's
me,
a
pick
draft
me.
motion written if you'd like to make it.
Mayor Overson, I move to certify the Draper Town Center Station Area Plan, the Taylorsville Expressway BRT Station Area Plan, and the 5600 West Old Bingham Highway Station Area Plan.
Second, Harvey.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion to these station area plans before we take a vote on certification? All right, seeing none, all in favor of approving these, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Good work. Well done.
Thank you.
Madam
Awesome.
Chair,
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes the Regional Growth Committee's input. I just make a point, Megan talked to it. This is the 38th stationary plan that has been approved by the council. We're well on our way to make these things happen. We're excited about that. So I wanted to share that with you, and I'll turn the time back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Mayor. Good work, Regional Growth Committee and all of those communities that were part of that and Team WFRC. Well done. All right, we're going to move on to item 5, our Transportation Coordinating Committee, and we're going to turn to Mayor Mark Shepard for that.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. We've got 2 items for from the Transcom report today. The first is an action on 3 modifications to the Transportation Improvement Program. And I'm going to turn the time over to Ben Withrich, the Ben Withrich, to review the tip modifications with us. Ben.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Good to have you here. And thanks, everyone. So today we've got a milestone for the Transportation Improvement Program here, or the TIP as it's commonly known. As the mayor mentioned, part of it is we've got a board modification before you today for the 2530 TIP. And then we'll bring up in a minute, but we have the opportunity to approve new projects to be included in the draft programs for the 2631 Transportation Improvement Program. So for a reminder, the Transportation Improvement Program is a 6-year program of highway transit and active transportation projects. The Transportation Improvement Program implements the long-range plans and meets the short-range needs along the Wasatch Front. And because of the dynamics for both the projects and the programs, almost every opportunity that we have to meet, we have a board modification to the document. So that brings us into this first action here, or this tip action for the board modification number 6. In your meeting materials, you should have a copy of the resolution, and attached to that resolution will be a copy of the tables, which identifies 3 projects that are before us today in this board modification. We'll go through each 3 of these projects in a fairly quick manner. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask. So the first project here is a project in Salt Lake City. In the last state legislative session, Senate Bill 195 tasked UDOT in partnership with Salt Lake City to complete a mobility and environmental impact analysis of the Salt Lake City greater downtown areas. This is the area between I-15 to Foothill Boulevard and 6 North to 2100 South. The study will assess the impacts of highway reduction strategies within the study area that the city has implemented on or after July 1st of 2015, and or has plans to implement on or before July 1st of 2030. On arterials or collector highways, including the impacts to other state and local highways, the mobility, the traffic flow, pedestrians and non-motorized vehicle flow, the economy, the public health, quality of life, air quality, the maintenance and operations. This also would include consultation with relevant stakeholders, including business owners, commuters, and residents impacted by the highway reduction. So the request here, I thought the slides were advancing, I didn't look up. So the request here is to add additional funds to this project. These additional funds come from the Statewide Transportation Solution Program. They would request adding $500,000 to this, giving us a total project funding of $750,000. The next board modification that we have is a project in Davis County. This is a local government project with Bountiful City, Woods Cross, and North Salt Lake, Bountiful City being the project sponsor. This is to take an old existing vintage railroad structure. This is on the Park and Overpass is what it's called. I never knew that. I grew up nearby it. We called it the Bamberger Railroad Bridge. It's at 500 West. A view of this picture looking north. This is on 5th West. A view of this picture looking underneath the structure. Part of the wall structure there. Beautiful structure, but very getting old, and this is looking south. The intent of this project is to remove this structure and bring the grade up for an at-grade intersection. That'll improve both access for the communities around the area, as well as the residents and the high school. The request here today before us is to add an additional $900,000. These funds come from UDOT Region 1 in their Transportation Solutions Program. The total project estimated cost is about 8.9 plus million. We do not have all 8.9 plus million yet. We're about 2.5 million shy. But this project, they will begin the environmental document, then begin through the design process and needle down on the exact cost of the project. But this is to request is to add the additional 900,000 to the project. The next board modification that we have is our last board modification right now, and it involves the state fund programs. Every year, the funding levels for the state funded programs are amended into the existing TIP in May prior to the new state fiscal year, which begins on July 1st. While I explain more of this board modification, I'm going to let the presentation slide through some pictures that represent some of the items covered in these programs. These programs include funding levels for system preservation programs, operations and safety programs, region contingency funds and other programs, and region concept development. The modification approves the program funding levels, but each program is treated individually, and the individual projects then will come before you when they are identified as a board modification in the future. So we're looking at year 2026. The dark blue are those projects that were previously funded, and the orange projects are those that are proposed. And that would include all of the projects for the board modification. I might add that the state and federal funded programs for 2026 equates to about 666 million plus.
Hey, Ben, I should just note, Ben is going over this portion, all these funding line items very briefly, but you should all understand that these are things that go through the UDOT budget, and the Transportation Commission went through these items in a lot of detail. And if you'd like some really entertaining viewing, you can watch the Transportation Commission meeting online, which I do. It's actually it is really interesting if you're into this stuff. So if you want more detail on any of these, you can go back and watch that. Carlos?
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. And realizing that these are at program level, a lot of this money is not being spent in the Wasatch Front Regional Council area. And so once the projects get identified individually, the projects that are within the Wasatch Front area would come back in front of here.
Yeah, thank you. That's actually a great point that reflects the way that we weave together from all of the different agencies that are involved in the transportation process, the programs and the funding and the projects, and it's all coordinated together. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, Ben. Are there any questions for Ben in regards to this? Okay, seeing none, Madam Chair, I would move to approve the resolution to modify the 2025-2030 Transportation Improvement Program as presented.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ben. Excellent job. It is nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody heard that, but it was really slight. He said it's nice to have me here when he stood up. It's very good.
I
Yeah.
said that.
Thank you. It always is. Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have three. So We'll go to Mayor Petro for that one. Thank you. Okay. Okay,
You win.
any discussion to this motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is approved.
Okay,
Send
well,
it
that
back to
brings
Mayor
us,
Shepherd.
we do have one more item, and so I'll bring back, again, a man among men, a master of all things CMAC, CRP, TIP, and others. And may I say, the god of all things PowerPoint transition, the wonderful Ben Withridge.
Well, thanks. Thanks, Mayor. I meant to say it was good to have you here, Mayor, not me.
Ben, it was too
Well-
good when you said, it's good to have me here. Yeah, it was good.
Well, this is the milestone. So as the mayor indicated, we have our surface transportation, congestion mitigation, air quality, the transportation alternative program, and the carbon reduction program. These are the capital improvement programs in Wasatch Front Regional Council that you have the responsibility to program these funds. We have our technical advisory committees, we have Transcom, we have all these committees that bring this information up into development for this body to make those approvals. So today we get an opportunity to talk about these draft projects that are before you to be amended into the draft programs prior to the development of the TIP. So where are we? So last August, we were directed to send out a request for letters of intent. Those letters of intent were due back to us in the early part of October. Then we requested from them potential project sponsors that they prepare a project evaluation concept report. Those were due back to us in the early part of December. And from December through the end of March, we were going through project evaluations. We were talking with, meeting with, going out on field reviews to evaluate these projects. Then at the latter part of March, we took all this information to the technical advisory committees, which are made up of the city engineers and other public works and other city workers
And county.
Staff. And what?
And county, city,
county.
county, and UDOT and UTA all participate in those technical advisory committees.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. And they made a recommendation, which we took to Transcom in April. Transcom reviewed those projects, made recommendation that we bring them to this body to be adopted into the draft programs. So in the Ogden area, we had 31 unique projects that made a request. And then if you'll draw to the bottom of that little brown box, it says 39 total project requests for federal funds. So there were 8 projects that requested funding for more than one funding source. So we had 18 requests in the STP funds. So there was a total of 63 million plus of federal funds requested, not cost of the project. That was the amount of federal funds requested against an available amount of 9.3 million. You can see there were 5, and you can see the values there in the CMAC, 11 in the TAP, and in the 5 in the CRP. Well, in the Salt Lake area, we had 57 unique projects. So, and there were 92 total project requests. So there were 35 projects that requested funds from multiple programs. But that shows that we had 35 projects that were asking for, competing for STP funds. More than $183 million they were requesting, and we had 21.5 plus available. In the CMAC, again, 21 projects requesting more than 58 million, 16 in the TAP, 20 in the CRP. So a significant need we have along the Wasatch Front in the Ogden-Layton urban area and the Salt Lake area. So there was a lot of responsibility. So in your,
Ben,
yes.
excuse me, can you go back, please, one slide? Just to make sure everybody's clear on this, what Ben's showing right now is Salt Lake urban area, that's Salt Lake County. When he says the Ogden-Layton area, urban area defined by the census, that's Davis, Weber, and Southern Box Elder. For Morgan and Tooele, these programs are administered by UDOT, and we work with Morgan and Tooele and the counties there to apply for these funds as well. Now, just go back to the Salt Lake one slide, because this actually presages something we're going to talk about a little bit later in the meeting about our work at the federal level, engagement with the USDOT and the Congress about what the federal transportation program should be. These funds are funds that WFRC administers in our area, federal funding programs that we utilize principally to provide funding to communities to do local critical projects. And I just have to dwell for a moment on, as Ben said, the blue is the demand and the red is the available funding. So, $209 million of requests for funding for $31 million of funding that is available. So the ratio is significantly off there. And we know that in part because inflationary impacts on project costs are really significant. And there, of course, our communities are growing and you're trying to do good things and invest for your communities. So the demand well exceeds the supply of revenue. This is part of the reason that one of the things that we are doing as Metropolitan Planning Organizations and our transportation partners and working with the cities and the counties at the federal level is recommending and asking that this core formula federal funding program, that the funding be increased for this, so that your communities, there are resources available to local communities to do these essential projects, which are a complement to the state roadway system. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Andrew. So in your meeting materials, you have copies of what we call is the project tables. You have a copy and we'll show all four, but before I zoom in on them, I want you, so the tables are identified with project information going from the left-hand side across. There's significantly much more data than what we're showing here. As you move across to the left-hand side of the tables are criterias that we measure, and that gives us a score. And then there's other significant reasons or professional considerations that are identified on the project. But the projects that are highlighted then with the blue cell there to the left with the dollar amount and then highlighted in yellow, those are the projects that are being recommended. And that's the same in all of the programs with the exception of the TAP program. So there's our CRP program. The TAP program, actually, we've divided that into three. We've got a planning component, we've got a safe routes to school component, and we've got a capital improvement program. So those projects go through those evaluations and the scores are identified. But again, the projects that are recommended are highlighted in yellow.
Ben, the TAP program, again, is Transportation Alternatives Program. We treat it a little bit differently because it's specifically for active transportation, bikeway, trail, pedestrian projects. So the criteria are a little different than the other programs.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. And so with those projects identified there, we're gonna show quick here that in like the SDP, we had $10 million that were programmed on 6 projects in the Ogden-Layton area. We had $22.5 million programmed on 10 projects in the Salt Lake area. Now I say that because almost all of the projects, this was only partial funding on these projects. We encouraged the project sponsor to go out and look for additional funds, try to seed the pot so that we can utilize as much money to accomplish what we need to do. There's always the option to come back and request for additional funding. So of the 16 projects in the STP, here we've got the 6 projects summarized in the Ogden-Layton area. We got Clinton, Centerville, Hupper, West Point, Marriott, Slaterville, and Brigham City. Then in the Salt Lake area, we've got 10 projects and they are there. And to highlight one of the projects in the STP program, we pulled or identified a project here in Brigham City. To give you an idea of what these funds will cover here, so in Brigham City on 12th West, currently this is a 2-lane facility. Some of it's improved where development is happening, but most of it is just gravel shoulders. The city's done a remarkable job of securing the right-of-way on this particular project already. The intent is to take this 2-lane facility and reconstruct and widen to a 5-lane facility with center turn lane, curb gutter and sidewalks. And that will go from Forest Street to Industrial Way, which is about 3/10 of a mile. So with all the work that the city's done, the project estimated cost is 2.8+ million. Funds being requested are 2.6+ million. And it's recommended that we program $2 million on this project. So that's This will be a fantastic project up there in Box Elder County, in Brigham City. So then we move into the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program, or CMAQ funds. We had 4 million that we programmed on 2 projects, and in the Salt Lake area, we had 5.4+ million that we programmed on 4 projects. Again, here's the summary of those projects: the 2 in the Weber, the Ogden-Layton area, and the 4 in the Salt Lake urban area. A project to highlight there is a project up in Weber County. This is a project that's on 9th South. This is to construct a pathway on the north side of the road between 4160 West to 3600 West. This is 7/10 of a mile in length. We're calling this also a Safe Routes to School, but it's commuter related, so it's eligible for congestion mitigation air quality funds because it's reducing the emissions by enabling that pedestrian or that commuter travel. Estimated project cost is 1.4+ million. The funds being requested is 1.3+ million. Out of this pot of money, it was recommended $1 million for this project. You'll actually see this project pop up on another list with another program. So then we move into the Transportation Alternative Program. Like Andrew said, this is the program that's more for active transportation, safe routes to school, and those kind of projects that are non-motorized. We had 1.2 million available in the Ogden-Layton area. We programmed that on 3 projects, and we programmed 2.1 million on 3 projects in the Salt Lake area. Here's a list of those projects that were identified or recommended. And incidentally, these on your tables, you can extract these out. We can also provide the summaries for you as well. But a good example of this project or of a TAP project is a request. This is a UDOT Murray City request. This is on 5400 South. This is to construct missing sidewalk on the south side of 5400 South between Canal Street and Walden Glen Drive. Now, you may remember, some of you, that a couple of years ago, the council approved funds for the north side of this facility. And so both sides will be constructed together. This project is estimated to cost $548,000. Funds being requested were $200,000, and it was recommended $200,000 for this project. So a significant benefit for the sidewalks and for the active transportation in this area. You can see the shoulders there, how they slough off. The last program then is our carbon reduction program, or CRP funds. We had 1.4+ million that we programmed on 2 projects, 2.4+ million that we programmed on 3 projects in each of the urban areas. Again, the list summarizing those projects. The project we'd like to highlight with the CRP funds is actually a project that's the Davis Salt Lake Connector. But these funds are for operations. UTA has made a request that we program funds for operating this project for 3 years to help in the operations of this project. Project estimated cost is 24+ million. Funds being requested for the operations portion was 5 million, but with the available funds that we had, it was recommended that we put $1 million on this program as it moves forward to help seed the pot so that other funds can be identified. That would be all of the projects we have for recommendation to the council.
Mayor Shepherd, can I add one thing to what Ben is saying here?
Absolutely.
Ben talked through 4 federal programs. STP is by far the largest of them. There are 2 programs, CMAQ and CRP, Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality, and then Carbon Reduction Program. They're relatively small. And those 2 programs, CMAQ and CRP, they fund great projects, but they are also very similar in their objectives, right? Air quality, carbon reduction. And so even though we pride ourselves collectively on the efficiency of our processes, the fact that the federal law has created these 2 programs creates some inefficiency because Ben and team, and this is true for all the MPOs and then also for UDOT, have to administer separate processes for these 2. Now, we do it as efficiently as we can, but this is why one of our recommendations for the next surface transportation reauthorization legislation will be for areas that have both of these formula funding programs that we can use one process for those 2 programs, just for the sake of efficiency. So this is a specific recommendation we're making, and I want to give that to you as an example of the type of engagement that we have at the federal level. Fund the right programs, the core programs in the right way, and then the programs that we do have, make sure that we can operate them as efficiently as possible.
Thank you, Andrew.
Are there any other questions for Ben or comments? Okay, seeing none, Madam Chair, I'd move that we approve the Surface Transportation Program, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program, Transportation Alternatives Program, and the Carbon Reduction Program projects for the 2026-2031 TIP as presented.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And Ben, thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Mayor Zoltansky. Any discussion? You look like you had something you'd like to say.
I was just going to tell Ben I would understand a lot better if you had ice cream.
Noted. Yeah. Okay. Any other
Do have
comments?
some.
All right. Seeing none, all in favor of approving this, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Those are approved.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes our report.
Thank
Ben.
you. Thank you all so much. So much good work has gone into this. And when you can condense it down to a 10-minute presentation and it's 1 billion hours of work and all of the labor that goes into this. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, really quickly, I want to welcome a couple more members who have joined us online. We have Commissioner Tyler Vincent from Box Elder County. We've got Commissioner Raylene Blocker from Morgan County, Mayor Cherie Wood, Mayor Ken Phippen, and Council Member Laurie Stringham. Thank you all. I didn't actually name where all you're from. You all know where you're from. We all know where you're from. Anyway, thank you all so much for being here with us. All right, we're going to move on to item 6. We've got our budget committee, and we've got Mayor Jeff Silvestrini here presenting on that, the vice chair of the budget committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm pinch hitting here for Amy Winter Newton, who's the chair of this committee, who couldn't be here. And I'm really happy because I get to basically present the most exciting part of this meeting. Normally that's active transportation, which comes after this, but today we don't talk about the budget every day, right? So anyway, here we go. As you guys will recall, we talked about this budget in March, but the budget committee met again earlier this month, basically with respect to public comment, and we're bringing this budget before you for approval today, and also an informational item with respect to the fraud risk assessment. So the budget is in your packets. This covers the fiscal year 2026 WFRC goals, budget, and unified planning work program, which outlines the activities that WFRC plans to undertake in the coming fiscal year, beginning in July. And these matters were prepared, materials were prepared by staff in coordination with the budget committee, which has met several times. At our last meeting in March, the council authorized the release of these matters for review and public comment from the public and from also the councils of governments in our region. And then the budget committee again reviewed them at our meeting on May 8th. So we're now recommending that the council approve the WFRC goals, budget, and unified planning work program. And very briefly, because we already considered these matters before, I realize, and they're really not, there are no material changes. I'm going to turn to Andrew and Marion to just summarize. First, Andrew with the goals, and then Marion with the budget.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair of the Budget Committee. And I'll note the Chair of the Budget Committee, Amy Winter Newton, is not here because she has a returning missionary at the airport right now. So we're excited for her. I asked her where her priorities are, and anyway, she has her priorities in the right order, obviously. Okay, so we will take a minute. I'll just emphasize what Mayor Silvestrini said. These goals that are in front of you today and the budget that's in front of you today for adoption have not changed since March, but just as a reminder, because it is really important to us that we have transparency and that you have clarity about all of these materials. We're going to run through them briefly, and if you have any questions for us now or at any point, we are always very happy to talk with you or answer any questions, okay? In short summary, we have 3 overarching goals for the next fiscal year for WFRC. I'll just read them, they're on the screen. Number 1, collaboratively advance the Wasatch Choice vision to accommodate growth and enhance quality of life. Think about the work, what we did at the beginning of this meeting on the Regional Growth Committee, the Wasatch Choice vision, the Regional Transportation Plan. Those items that we work on fall under that broad umbrella of the Wasatch Choice vision, as do the project work that we do, because we have a broad vision and we do long-range transportation and land use plans, and then we provide funding for those projects that are in those plans. So goal number one, sort of summarized in a word, planning. Goal number two is to provide subject matter expertise to federal, state, and local officials and policymakers. So in a word, this is the policy process, which is, as I mentioned already, the work in Washington, D.C., with Congress and the agencies on federal policy and funding, the work that we have the pleasure to do at the state capitol, with the House and the Senate and the governor's office. We are not in ourselves a policymaking body, but we can provide advice and information to inform that policymaking process. The station area plans, housing transit reinvestment zones, these are examples of the work that we engage in the policymaking space. And then number three, strive for organizational excellence. This is the administration of our agency. And so here you have providing information and transparency to you, our members, and to our stakeholders, the budgeting process, which Marion will go through in a moment, using our resources prudently and efficiently. What I'm reading from, I should say, is the more detailed version of these goals, which has been provided to you. So I'm just hitting some summary points. Using our resources prudently and efficiently and maintaining budget stability. And then the final one, and I'll just actually read this, create and maintain a work environment that maximizes the health, happiness, and productivity of an excellent staff. It's the last thing in the goals, but it's first in our hearts because of our terrific staff who are so dedicated and work so hard to serve all of our communities. So that's just a quick overview of the goals. And of course, we'd be happy to take any comments or questions on those. Okay.
Excellent, thanks. I'm going to just go over a few highlights to complement the information that is in your packet. So I provided the full budget, which has footnotes, it has a memo. So there's a lot of detail there. And as Andrew said, always happy to answer some questions. But I thought I would just run through some highlights here and explain some of the places where the budget goes up or down. But as you'll see in these few slides coming, it is a stable budget. We have budgeted for a 3% increase, which is about $400,000. And so that's relatively stable. And that represents the fact that we have ongoing work and it's an ongoing cycle. And as some projects wrap up, we have new initiatives, and we'll be talking about a little bit of that here. As in prior years, we've budgeted conservatively. Our budget represents a cap on spending and doesn't necessarily indicate plans to spend all the funds. It includes all anticipated new funding tied to the work detailed in the UPWP, which is also in your packets. This proposal was presented in March, shared for public comment, and is now presented to you for final approval. In October, after closing this year, I'll bring amendments to you to account for our multi-year projects. So that's a typical cycle that we do. So this is all of our new funding for next year. Our key expenditures, as usual, are in staffing and consulting. We have a modest budget increase in the compensation line to reflect our investment in our terrific staff. This line includes COLA merit adjustments in line with all of our government partners, and also health insurance retirement cost adjustments. We put a cap in there and have a little increase in that line this year, as usual. The contractual line often sees a lot of fluctuation as projects begin and end, and this year it stays relatively steady as the cost of completed work offsets the cost of the proposed work for next year. This year we completed a power district transportation study, which I think you have reviewed several times this year. And then we also have done significant work, as you've heard, in our transportation and land use connection efforts, transit fresh look initiatives, station area planning, ongoing. As you heard from Megan, we have significant work that we did in that area during this fiscal year, and we have continued work that will go into next fiscal year. For next year, we have a major new initiative that we've talked about briefly here in Regional Growth Committee and also in Council, the activity-based model. Bert talked about that. This is a $1.1 million multi-year project, which we're launching in partnership with UDOT, UTA, and MAG. And it's transforming our modeling from the traditional trip-based approach to an activity-based model. So this is an exciting new big initiative, multi-year. And so you'll see this show up in the next couple of years of budgeting. We also recently received word that WFRC had been granted additional funding from Utah's Land Use Training Fund for our mixed use visuals efforts. You saw that at the beginning of this meeting. Tim was presenting these visuals that help you in your planning. And we have now additional funding to make those 3D panoramas, which will be on wasatchchoice.org. And so we're excited that we have that partnership with you. It's actually Utah Department of Commerce to enhance the effort that we were already doing this year on those visuals. In January, you'll recall that we were awarded a federal Safe Streets for All grant through the U.S. Department of Transportation to conduct roadway safety audits throughout the region. We are actually finalizing that grant agreement right now. We're going back and forth with Federal Highways to just solidify that grant agreement. So we really anticipate starting that work in this next fiscal year. So you'll see that as a new initiative. And of course, we completed a lot of the work a couple of years ago in the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. So this is a continuation of that grant and of those funds. Our revenues come from three sources: federal, state, and local. And although most of our funds are federal, as we've talked about, our terrific partnerships with state and local entities provide a third of our budget every year that you can see there. Our federal funds come mainly from the U.S. Department of Transportation through formula-based funds. So that's the same funds that Andrew and Ben were talking about. Those also fund the work that we do administratively here in our office. And those are under the IIJA and currently up for reauthorization. And so we're looking at continuing those formula funds to support the work that we do, planning, RTP, TIP, all of those pieces. You can see our state partnerships are listed here. State and local funds support all of the collaborative work that we do here with our partners, UDOT, UTA, MAG, all of you. And local funds match our federal grants and cover the additional work that we do outside of our MPO responsibilities. So there is the picture. I'm happy to answer any questions. And there is a lot more detail in your packets if you would like to read it there. Any questions?
Any questions for Marianne? Okay, seeing none then, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to open a public hearing to discuss the WFRC fiscal year 26 goals, budget, and unified planning work program.
Thank you. Is there a second to that? Thank you. All in favor of opening the public hearing on this, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We're now going to open a public hearing to discuss the WFRC fiscal year 26 goals, budget, and unified planning work program. Is there anyone here in person that would like to speak to this? If so, go ahead and stand up. Let me know and we'll have you come to the mic. I'm seeing none. Is there anyone online that would like to speak specifically to this public hearing?
No, there's no one.
Okay.
Then I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
Okay, Madam Chair, first of all, I would like to thank staff, finance staff. Marion has been wonderful. It's an easy process preparing this budget with that help. And also Andrew and all the other staff here at WFRC. I also want to thank the other members of the budget committee that, we meet, I don't know, 4 times a year or thereabouts to review the budget and the goals, and we discuss those goals. And, this sounds like it's a rote process, but it really isn't. We actually dig into those with the help of staff to talk about those. So I want to thank all those folks. And then I would like to make a motion that we approve the WFRC goals, budget, and unified planning work program for fiscal year 2026.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the WFRC goals, budget, and unified planning work program. Appreciate the description. A lot of work goes into this, comprehensive amount of work. We've got a really good budget committee, works hard, works closely with staff. We've got a good team here. Any discussion to this motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we have a budget.
We have a budget. That's awesome. So Madam Chair, one final item just for information. In your packet is a copy of the completed fraud risk assessment that's required by the state auditor. we've completed that annual fraud risk assessment, and the scoring on that shows that WFRC remains in the optimal category of very low risk because of the robust internal controls that we have and separations of duties, trained staff, policies, and transparent structure and process. I think we all agree. Anyway, that memo is available in your packets. If there are any questions, you can direct them either to me or Councilmember Newton as chairs of the Budget Committee, or to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move on to item 7. We have reports. We're going to not be able to turn to Mayor Troy Walker because he is on a plane and unable to present. I don't know who he's having present in his stead. We might just turn directly to staff and ask you to go ahead and take this.
Thank you very much. And thank you, members of the council. Good to be here with you on behalf of Mayor Walker and just give a brief update from the Active Transportation Committee. And it's been a busy season.
This is Hugh Van Wagenen again. Hi, Hugh.
Hey, Andrew. And yes, he did make me put on this tie today, but I'm better for it. So just a few things like to just make you aware of. And one of the things that WFRC and Bike Utah were just able to accomplish was taking a group of 30 members of people around our region, your staff members, your colleagues, to New Jersey to do a transportation safety tour. And the cities of Hoboken and Jersey City have not had a traffic-related fatality in over 7 years. This includes people driving, people walking, people biking, people rolling. And so we wanted to go and hear from those communities and see what they're doing well and see what we could bring back here. So as participants, we were guided by local staff members through those cities and communities to look at specific infrastructure projects, as well as discuss policies and things that contribute to this safety success. And so grateful to everybody that was able to send their staff with us. Mayor Phippen, who's online, joined us as well. And it was a great experience. The other major thing that happened here during Bike Month was the Golden Spoke Ride. It was the 8th annual event and great success. Over 600 people signed up to participate on part of the ride that happened anywhere from Ogden to Provo. There were several segments that you could ride any given distance. And really thrilled with the number of participants that came out this year. Draper City and Mayor Walker did host a start point as part of the ride, and Mayor Walker guided his own 20-plus mile ride with several participants, and they had a great time there. And I just want to say thanks to the Jordan River Commission, who did a huge lift. Every year we partner with UTA and UDOT and our communities to put this on. And every year an agency steps up and really does the heavy lifting for this. And it was the Jordan River Commission this year. But thanks to all the partners that participated, and we look forward to seeing you all on the trails next year. And again, there's over 350 miles that contribute to the Golden Spoke Spine and its supporting networks, which is just an amazing thing to say and a testament to the work that you have all been doing over the years to improve our trail network system.
Paved, family-friendly trails that people can use for transportation purposes or for fun, or both, because it's usually fun. If you ride to work on your bike, you're having fun. So, and this fits in with the work that UDOT is doing and the Utah Trail Network and the work that you all in cities and counties are doing to really build out a full system so that people can ride their bikes if that's what they want to do to get around.
Yeah, thanks,
So
Andrew.
Mayor Silvestrini has a comment he wanted to make.
Yeah, so I just want to say, this is, I don't know which year this is of the Golden Spoke Ride, but this is a ride actually that I think this organization promulgated and thought, maybe it's Hugh's idea, but it's been really popular. I wasn't able to ride this year due to some surgery I had, but I did go down to the Tracy Aviary in South Salt Lake, and South Jordan Councilmember Don Shelton and I there talked to folks. There was a family ride that started at that point and headed south. And the other exciting thing is that we recently cut a ribbon in Mill Creek on our border with Taylorsville, West Valley, and South Salt Lake of a new loop on the Mill Creek side of the river that has a pavilion, a boat launch, the trail along the river on the east side of the river, and then a bridge a little bit farther south from the 39th/41st South Bridge, so you can make a loop through Mill Creek and come back up through Taylorsville or whatever. It makes the ride a little more interesting, expands the use of that trail for residents on the Mill Creek side of the river. And I think actually it puts eyes on the trail there and helps us try to resolve some issues that we have with folks that use that trail in a way that we prefer they wouldn't. But anyway, it was a fun ride, and thanks to Wasatch Front Regional Council for sponsoring it.
I appreciate you being out there, Mayor. And if you're curious about where any of those 350 plus miles or new trails that are getting added all the time, like the lovely facility Mayor Silvestrini just mentioned, our Analytics team, along with partners, has been working really hard to consolidate existing bikeways. So we do a lot of planning work here, but this new map resource is focused on what's on the ground today. And it's a really great way to say, well, what are the different options out there? I like to ride on certain types of roads or certain types of facilities, and this allows you to sort of map that out for your preferences and your abilities. This is something we're going to maintain in collaboration with all of you and our partners year over year, and to make sure we have the most up-to-date existing facilities in the state. And this is statewide in partnership with the state and the state mapping services. And so the map can be found at bikeways.utah.gov, just launched here for Bike Month, and check it out, spread the word, and we're really excited about this. It's been a big lift, and encourage you all to get out and take a look at it. So with that, Madam Chair, I appreciate the time.
So great. Thank you, Hugh. Appreciate that. Thanks to all the work and everyone who was
Can
part
I
of
add one
this.
more thing?
Please, go ahead.
This past Monday, we had an opportunity in Layton to be able to have a ribbon cutting for our underpass under Highway 89. So a huge shout out to everybody that helped us get there. When you talk about funding, this is one of those projects that took a while, but certainly we appreciate it. We actually started it in 2014. So to have that ribbon cutting was monumental, but interesting enough, I have to, I appreciate everyone with the reconstruction of Highway 89 and what went into there, because without that, we would not have really focused on this ability to connect. And eventually, we will have a trail system that goes all the way through. However, at that grand opening, I just want to say thank you, because I ran into some folks that are avid bike riders. And there was a gentleman there that said, since Highway 89 changed and we put in the frontage road, he says, this has been a game changer for me. He says, I'm enjoying my bike riding again. And actually this tunnel, he's used it numerous times. So anyway, thanks everyone for all your help in the funding of that.
That's awesome. Thank you for
And
that.
if you want to see my recap video, you can go on my Joy Petrol Layton City Mayor page and see that.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. Thank you. Okay. I'm just making sure it's listed as 7B, and I thought 7B, but it's reports. Yes. Okay, we're going to turn to our executive director, Andrew Gruber, and also we'll have Miranda participate as well. Andrew, take it away for the executive director's report.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. What I want to do in collaboration with Miranda, I've already alluded to this in this discussion, but is give a little update on the process for the updating, the reauthorization of federal surface transportation legislation. Miranda is going to give a little background, and then I'll share, and I've already been doing this throughout this meeting, share a few of the specific priorities that the Metropolitan Planning Organizations have identified. But Miranda, why don't you go ahead and walk us through?
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. And I'll kind of note, the first part of the year, a lot of the government affairs work that we're doing is obviously focused on the state's legislative session. We had a lot of reporting back on the session, and now our focus has somewhat turned to federal issues during this time, because there's a lot going on. And like Andrew said, we're facing the reauthorization of the Surface Transportation Act. So the multi-year surface transportation authorization legislation, the legislation that authorizes the funding that we receive, our programs, what Andrew, Ben, and Marion all alluded to in their presentations, provides us the direct funding that we use to operate our programs and to operate here at WFRC, not just at the MPOs, but also our partners at UDOT and UTA also receive federal funding authorized through this legislation, and it will expire next year, so September of 2026. But congressional committees and staff are already in the process of looking at what should be included in this next bill. So the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act, the IIJA, was passed several years ago. I think it was 2021. And so now we're moving on to the next bill. And in front of you all, and I'll share this on the screen as well for folks that we have online, we have two documents. We have Utah's background and principles for reauthorization, and then we also have Utah's MPO specific policy priorities. So I'm going to touch briefly on the background and principles. And I'll note that what this set of recommendations, principles are considerations for Utah stakeholders as they engage in transportation reauthorization discussions. And I'll also note on the back page, you'll see a list of key partners that are supportive of this, of these principles, of this information, and sharing that with our federal partners. So we have the 4 MPOs, we have UTA, UDOT, transit agencies across the state, Utah Association of Counties, Utah League of Cities and Towns, Associated General Contractors. There's a number of key transportation partners on here that are supportive of these principles for reauthorization. So I'm just going to run through them briefly. And why the reauthorization is important to us. One is because Utah is one of the fastest growing states in the nation, and we need to continue to invest in transportation in order to accommodate that growth and maintain quality of life. Utah is nationally recognized for our data-driven collaborative planning processes. We are really seen as a model across the nation for collaboration between our MPOs, Transit Authority, and DOT. Federal funds are an essential component of transportation funding in Utah. Utah does better than most states at funding our own transportation with state funds, with local funds, but our federal funding is also critical and important here. Investing in transportation infrastructure is a national priority and core federal role. As far as specific principles for the reauthorization, we want to ensure that the reauthorization is provided in a timely fashion and is a long-term reauthorization. So, yes, Andrew. Oh, thank you. Sorry, trying to drive and read is maybe not my strong suit. Provide long-term and timely reauthorization. So the reauthorization bill is usually a 5-year authorization. And again, that provides stability over a 5-year period, knowing that we have these funds to rely on, and timely. Congress doesn't always get bills passed on time, particularly budget bills, and so that's one thing that we want to ensure that that we have the reauthorization in place when it is needed. Authorize robust investment levels, like Andrew mentioned. A lot of these programs are core to what we do. And ensuring that we have that funding and that stability is critical. Enhance formula funding and enhance discretionary programs. So in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, a lot of you are likely aware there are a lot of discretionary grant programs that not only DOTs and MPOs, but local governments could also apply for. There were just a lot of new programs. And one thing that we're recommending here is that that process is just evaluated, saying what is the best way to get funds to our communities, to our planning agencies. Core formula programs is critically important, and it's challenging when we're all competing against each other for those funds. So a lot of discretionary programs are important, but so is the core funds that we receive. Establish reliable funding mechanisms, and then streamline processes and improve project delivery. And so those are the principles in which these partners have agreed upon and are supportive of. I will note that we have, and Andrew's going to go over these, the MPO specific policy priorities. He's already alluded to some, But our partners at UDOT and UTA also have specific policy priorities related to roadway, related to transit, that they are bringing forward with our federal delegation and other federal partners for consideration in working with their different committee staff. So at this point, I think I'll turn it over to Andrew and any others if they wanted to add anything.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Miranda. I just threw a lasso around Carlos and said, hold on a second, because I'm gonna give him and Carlton, if they want, the opportunity to comment here briefly on the federal issues. And I say that because all of Utah's transportation agencies are engaged in this process collaboratively. We've been working on it. Carlton and the team from UTA were just in DC yesterday, meeting with our delegation about these issues. Carlos testified to the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee recently, where two of our members of Congress, Owens and Kennedy, representatives, are on that committee. And Carlos, the thing that I was hoping that you would mention, your perspective on this, is there's so many programs that are in the IIJA, so many discretionary grant programs. And I think, as Miranda said, we all recognize that we can't ask for everything. We can't fund every single thing that we would like to have funded. And actually, it is rather inefficient, as we talked about before, to have so many disparate programs. So our shared emphasis is on the core formula programs that we use effectively here in Utah. So with that sort of background, Carlos, do you want to offer any thoughts about federal transportation and our approach?
We need it. It makes up, so for our budget, we're about $2.5 billion. Well, we are $2.5 billion a year. The federal portion is just under 18%. It's critical for the projects, and 20% of that federal money is distributed to the MPOs. And so that's the money that you guys program. And so it's really important to engage. My point with Congress has been to, first of all, it's been since 1993 since they passed a federal gas tax. There's been about a 70% erosion of that money. And you probably heard me say this yesterday. So I'd like to see them kind of narrow focus on really what the core mission is for the surface transportation program. IIJ was much broader than just a surface transportation. Think roads, bridges, transit. They made it a lot of different things. The trust fund now, our fear always with the trust fund was we thought the door swung one way. And for 40 years that I've been in this business, we've been trying to hold the door shut because we thought money would be leaving the trust fund and going to other things. And thank goodness the door swings two ways, because we're recipients of money coming in essentially from the general fund to help maintain the funding levels that we have right now, even with the erosion. And so, I think where we need to get to is they need to find revenue sources to add to the trust fund, and they need to narrow the focus of the trust fund. And I believe the core formula programs allow us to plan and execute that program more efficiently. We can be more strategic about the money. Everyone loves the discretionary program when you get it. It's a sugar rush, but you can't really be strategic and plan for a discretionary program. I think that's the icing on top. Let's keep trying for it. But, at the bottom line, we need a core program that we can all plan for, that's how we, build and take care of what we have. So that's an important emphasis that we're trying to make.
Carlos, thank you very much. And Carlton, do you want to comment here as well?
Sure. A couple things. We met with the acting FDA administrator on Tuesday afternoon at their request and had a great conversation. And obviously they're looking at a lot of streamlining and opportunities there. We had a great conversation about NEPA clearance and potential partnership with UDOT. Some of those federal agencies are, between their different employee reduction processes, are down substantial numbers. And so to move things along, we have to look at some more effective ways of accomplishing that. So they were very open to that conversation, and I think obviously a lot more needs to be had. The one thing I'll say is our members of Congress are in great positions to help in this conversation, and they were very productive. We reiterated that we're united in these core principles, and that our recommendations were sort of transit specific, that obviously the other partners were supportive of, but they weren't those focuses. And so, but we appreciated as we put that list together, that the feedback we got, just so we weren't catching anybody off guard. And I think they were appreciative of that as well, because as they submit those and their deadlines are here shortly, having that, not having conflicting stuff was important to that. And so, a lot still to be had between now and then, but I think a lot of people seemed open to the recommendations that we made.
Carlton, thanks, both of you guys. We appreciate it. And to that point that Carlton just made, so the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, on which Congressman Owens and Kennedy serve, the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, on which Senator Curtis served, those are the committees that have the principal role in drafting the next surface transportation reauthorization bill, along with Senate Banking, which does transit in the Senate. And so, Miranda, if you can put the other document.
Well, and I
on
would
the
just
screen.
say Celeste Malloy on the appropriations side.
On the appropriations side, and Congressman Moore is on Ways and Means. I mean, our delegation is in a really good spot, and I think they appreciate the fact that we work together in Utah and provide specific policy priorities to them. So as noted, the state has technical recommendations offered, UTA has transit-specific recommendations offered, and the 4 Metropolitan Planning Organizations in Utah have developed a shared set of MPO priorities. I'm going to run through them quick. You have them on your table. They're on the screen in front of you. And I'll do this quickly because we've already talked about most of these already in this meeting. Number 1, increase metropolitan planning funding. As Marion said, these are the main federal source of funding that allows us to do our work, and our work has gotten more complicated, and inflation has eaten away at our buying power. That's number 1. Number 2 is to increase the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. That was what we talked about with Ben. We call it STP, the funds that are available that are oversubscribed to fund projects, local projects. Number 3, continue funding for air quality improvement while streamlining program administration. That's what I mentioned earlier about the CMAQ and CRP programs, wanting to combine the administration. Number 4, maintain funding for Safe Streets and Roads for All, SS4A, and convert it to a formula. Safety should be something that we're all able to do all the time, rather than having to go and compete for specific project funding. Important, but make it a formula. We do think about safety all the time, but for enhancements to projects. And then 5, this is not an MPO thing specifically, it's a transit thing, but maintain robust funding for the Transit Capital Investment Grant, or CIG program. This is the primary federal transit program that has enabled us. Without this, I think it's fair to say we would not have the robust transit system that we have today, and we need that to keep going. So the funding for that program, like for core projects like Front Runner 2X, is strategic double tracking, should be continued and enhanced. And importantly for Utah, the program criteria should allow fast-growing areas with high transit potential to compete for project funding. Even if there isn't a lot of transit service right now in an area, they should be able to compete so that they can do transit and development at the same time and help shape the development as they go forward. Right, Mayor Ramsey?
My favorite line on that entire document, and I've read the whole thing a lot of times.
So thank you. So we've shared all of these with the members of our delegation and with our partners, and we're moving forward together in the unified Utah way. Okay, my last thing I'm going to give in my executive director's report. Thank you, Miranda. Anything else, or anything else? Anybody else?
No, thank you.
Questions, comments, anything? Okay. I want to give Janae Nardone, our communications manager, a minute. You know her already, but she's relatively new, so I want to give her a moment to comment. Janae.
Hi, everyone. I'm about 9 months in, and I've had the opportunity to meet many of you. Some of you maybe haven't, somebody face to a name. I'm the communications manager. I work closely with Rosie. As she mentioned, some of you might be familiar with Rosie. She's in our admin team, but also supports a lot of our communications work. So I just wanted to introduce myself and also say, consider me a resource when you're talking about WFRC. When you're talking about our work areas of transportation, land use, and economic development, consider me a resource. And also, if you just need some guidance in talking about your role and participation here as well as you're going out into other spaces, please consider me a resource. To that aim, I'm going to try and increase communications with your communication leads within your organizations to create a little bit of more of a network there so that we can lift up our successes in implementing the Wasatch Choice Vision. Easy ways to stay connected. You might just take it for granted, but we do have 3 newsletters. And so one of them is from our local advisory, our local advisory advisor, local administration advisor. There it goes. There's 3 of the letters. And one is from Miranda that comes out monthly, our government affairs newsletter, and then our WFRC newsletter. And so just an easy way to stay connected. If you have things you want us to amplify, please let me know. And then also our social, you might take that for granted that we're connected, but maybe take a glance and see that you are following WFRC. And just one update to close out, we are going to have a new website in the beginning of July. So coming soon, new website and new URL on the horizon. And please reach out to me if you have any ideas, requests, or if I can be a resource. Thank you.
John, I thank you very much. Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Awesome, thank you. As we prepare to wrap up, just a reminder, our next council meeting will be held on Thursday, August 28th. And I just want everybody to take a look at the time because a lot of deliberate effort went into making sure that this meeting was on time and we didn't run over, and we haven't, and we're gonna shore up in less time than we even have allowed. So I know, well done, everyone, all of us. Good job. That's great. We got a lot of good work done and we did it in 2 hours. That's pretty good. Under 2 hours. That's amazing. All right, with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you so much for all the great work happening. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, everybody.